Hi, everyone. We'll be getting started in just a minute. For those of you that are coming back a little early, I just wanted to give a shout out to our friends in Vermont. Vermont has been a state that has been leading proficiency-based education for some time. And today we have a new report that is authored by Vermont on performance-based assessment, performance assessments. It's a new report on strengthening local assessment systems for personalized proficiency-based education strategies and tools for professional learning based on their experiences. So this is a soft launch, a special preview for those of you joining early, and we'll be getting started in just a moment. All right, by my watch, it's 1/4 and I know we are on a tight time frame. Everything is condensed in the agenda virtually. So thank you for those of us, for those that are just joining, and welcome to the Aurora Institute Symposium 2020. Please use the chat, introduce yourself, hashtag Aurora 2020 on Twitter. We are recording and we'll share out all of the sessions, and you can access the full Zoom links and program. I am thrilled for our next keynote session on the bright spots that are happening across the US. Thank you for all of your work. And again, welcome back, everyone. I'm right now going to, you can go to the next slide, turn the Aurora Institute Virtual Symposium MC over to Chris Liang Vergara from World Class Education. He's our partner with the symposium, and he will be moderating the next session on the incredible group of schools and districts, you and so many educators that have really exemplified the bright spots across the country. We can't wait to learn together with you. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Susan. It's an honor to be here, and good morning, everybody. One thing I've learned as a teacher and working in schools is it doesn't matter how much you know until people know how much you care. And for the next 6 speakers, the amount of love and care and passion they bring to the work is unlike anything I've ever seen. And they've really moved to lead their communities together through this crisis and pandemic. To share with you today some of their advice and learnings as bright spots. They don't have it all figured out, but really excited for an honest conversation and reflection around how we all move and adjust and evolve in this time. One quick thing I'd like to point out, please share them some love. Been seeing it in the opening keynote, but go ahead and drop in the chat. If they say something that resonates with you, drop it in there to just help feed the energy and sharing of our community. And then after every speaker, we will have time for a few questions. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A button. There's chat, there's Q&A. If you drop a question in the Q&A, we'll use that to field some questions for every presenter as we move through.
Hey, Chris, I don't need to jump in. Your mic is getting caught on your collar, so we're having a hard time hearing a little bit. If you can just pull it up, it's here. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So make sure you have your chat and you have your Q&A. And with there, I will pass it to Renee from Riverside Unified School District to share about listening.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Renee Hill, and I have the pleasure and good fortune to be the Chief Academic Officer in Riverside Unified School District. I'm going to show you a couple of images that should resonate with you. What have you noticed in these days? What we've noticed in Riverside Unified is that our young people are using their voices. We thought we were listening to young people because we had them around us all the time, but were we really listening? Some of our young people decided to stage a protest. They walked from the downtown library to the district office for two main reasons. One was for inclusion, and not just for themselves. They spoke about including every person who was marginalized in any way. And secondly, they wanted fair investigations of discipline events and other related events at school. Fortitude, we're so lucky, but you have to really hold yourself up when you're hearing students give you details about what they want you to change. We also have Gratitude here in Riverside. We're a community of about 350,000 people, smack dab in the middle of LA and Palm Springs. We're a diverse community, and our students spurred us to really listen. Gratitude. When you listen, you have to slow down. When you slow down amidst reopening schools after a pandemic, you really have to have some fortitude. One way we chose to listen was to give a survey to our families. And we decided to change our point of view from engagement, where families would be coming to us, to outreach, where we would be going to them. So we went to meal service lines. We did phone banking. We had a helpline. We activated our family resource center, and we attended standing community meetings. When we actually had families indicate their choice for school, they wanted us to offer all types, not just distance learning, not just an in-person hybrid. So we have had the fortitude to design those three programs. About 3% of our families preferred a home-based choice, where they offer the instruction supported by a teacher. 38% prefer a virtual all-year choice. They don't plan to return even if health conditions allow. And 60% chose the in-person hybrid, where they would be returning once public health conditions allow. So we had to redesign school. Fortitude. In that redesign, we have chosen to have 6 action teams that have about 275 people participating. Those action teams come to consensus decisions about everything we're doing with school. Gratitude. When you're redesigning school in that amount of time, we also wanted to make sure we took a look at how we could make this moment last. We already had one-to-one situation in our middle schools and at our custom schools that are doing personalized learning. But now our help desk, for example, had to support, where they originally supported 10,000 people, now they were up to 45,000 people. Fortitude. So we've had to put some structures in place, and we want those structures to last. One of the changes that we made is our family technology resources are now offered in live webinars. Our families said they didn't want videos, they didn't want paper, they didn't want a website, they wanted a live presentation. We've done it and we'll continue to do it. Our school assistance counselors have developed a social emotional playbook, and our teaching and learning action teams built in a social emotional check-in at the beginning of each school day. Gratitude. Our student board members have launched a series that they chose to call More Than a Number, where they are inviting students to continue to express their point of view, their needs and desires here in Riverside Unified. Gratitude. So as we move forward, we will continue to have a home-based option. We will have what I call jokingly virtual forever. So we will continue to have a virtual school and will return to in-person once the need to have hybrid is done. Lastly, the thing I'm most proud about is we're staying together as a community. There are many diverse voices in Riverside community and definitely in the district. We've incorporated the voice of educators, parents, and students. And though we have different approaches and different desires, right now, we're all doing what we can to stay together. And mostly expressing gratitude and fortitude in our efforts to listen, to lead. Thank you.
Fantastic, Renee. Thank you so much for sharing your story. One quick question that came in. How did you help people slow down? Things were moving so fast and life was kind of feeling so crazy. A turtle almost seems like, how did you get people to take that deep breath and slow down?
It was tough at first because every board meeting, we had so many people on public input and some expressing a good deal of frustration, saying, why don't you have answers to these things? And so we started talking about the process, telling the community who was involved in the action teams, telling them when the meetings were happening, telling them the things that were under consideration. So we gave them as much information as we had at the time because we didn't have the answers quickly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story. And from this, we'll pass the mic to our next guest. We have John Clemente from South Bronx Community Charter and sharing his story of the move to Competency-Based. John?
Thanks, Chris. Let me just make sure I'm set up here. Okay. Can you see my screen okay, Chris?
Looks good. If you want to go in present mode and make it a little larger, or feel free to share it through in this way.
Okay. Okay, so I'm excited to share some of the promising work that we began in the spring at South Bronx Community as the pandemic was peaking in New York City. Skill up, design your future, be epic. At South Bronx Community, our tagline denotes the importance we place on 21st century skills and student agency towards an aspirational future of their choice. We founded the school with the belief that our current education infrastructure is broken, particularly for our students in the South Bronx. Only 10% of the 8th grade students in our district were deemed proficient on the state ELA exam when they joined our founding class of 9th graders in 2016. When that many talented, bright young people are not succeeding, that's system failure, not student failure. Acknowledging system failure led us to redesign school around 4 big ideas: competency-based learning, focusing on the skills students need for post-secondary success; culturally responsive education, ensuring that our students' identities and intersectionalities are reflected in the staff curriculum and rituals in the school; human-centered design, using empathy to understand our students' lived experiences and creating systems that meet their needs; and integrated social and emotional learning, focusing on these skills alongside academic skills and treating them with equal value. So we designed our competency framework thinking about the kinds of students we wanted to graduate, the kinds of young people that we wanted to grow. And we organized a set of skills designed to help our young people become healthy, happy, holistically productive members of our community. Our framework includes skills that reflect the kinds of things that you and I as adults might continue to practice in our lives every day. And they include things like writing effectively, practicing social responsibility, and developing myself. Looking back, designing with that future in mind is a large part of what helped us pivot successfully amidst the pandemic in the spring. when there were no more state tests and no seat time requirements, for many schools designed around alignment to tests and traditional classrooms with no student technology and minute-by-minute schedules for everything, this was an existential crisis. For SBC, it was a leapfrog moment. For us, it was an opportunity to push further towards a vision free from those constraints. This is work that we began in 2013 in a school design fellowship where our model was forged. So as a one-to-one school already using a learning management system for student learning materials, we had half the infrastructure in place already for a remote learning program. And the other two pieces came via the prescience of our team. One of our intrepid teachers, Sabha Ahmed, had applied to a program in October of 2019 to provide hotspots for our students to access internet at home. And those arrived serendipitously that first week in March. And so with home internet access available for our students, we had a critical linchpin to make our program viable. The other missing piece was a live online instructional platform. And so on March 13th, with the virus surging and beginning what would be a horrific strike through the heart of our community, we closed our school for one day. And we spent one day as a team learning the new distance learning platform and readying ourselves to launch what we called SBC Squared, the South Bronx Community Cloud. And so in our first iteration, we focused heavily on presence and advising, with it already a strong in-person advising model where every staff member advises a group of about 8 students, meeting with them individually for goal setting once every 2 weeks. We sought to leverage that strength to support our students and families during a very scary time. So led by our youth development specialist for advising, Cristela Cruz, we made some bold decisions about the role of advising in SBC Squared. We decided to check in with our students individually by phone every single day and check in with their parents twice a week by phone. And doing this kept our students engaged and kept our attendance rate 5 points better than the citywide average day to day. But more importantly, it showed our students that we cared during a crisis. And as many of us already know, these are mutually reinforcing ideas, strong relationships, and high attendance and engagement. In April, we took a pause and we asked ourselves, what can we do to strengthen the program now that we have kids coming to class every day online? And we did kind of a funny exercise. Our Associate Director of Capacity Building, Karen Patois, asked, what do teachers do all day in the brick and mortar building that is different from working online? And we tallied a teacher's day minute by minute, and we discovered that there were 2 hours of time that teachers spent on transitions, on lunch duty, and other responsibilities that didn't exist in SBC Squared online. And then the question became, what can we do with that time? And so as we designed the second iteration of the program during a foreshortened spring break, we thought about our pain points. We prioritized providing more time for collaboration among staff and personalization of learning support for students. We also used the opportunity to advance one of the foundational principles of our competency-based program, transparent learning pathways. And so our academic director, Brandon Corley, made the bold decision to have all teachers post the remainder of the work for the school year in our learning management system for students to access, and as we say, have at it. And we did this, one, because we believe that students should advance at their own pace. 2, we were seeking ways to keep students motivated and engaged. And 3, there was no longer a seat time requirement to pass classes. And so strong advising, increased collaboration and personalization, along with transparent pathways for students to work at their own pace, and importantly, the collective efficacy and dedication of our team proved to be a potent series of components to SBC Squared. And by the end of May, 20% of our students had already completed the coursework for their classes a full 3 weeks early. Think of all the strictures and structures that keep students in lockstep learning at the exact same pace for an entire year. We're sometimes operating at a fear that students will have nothing to do when they sit in these hot classrooms in June. But when we provided our students the opportunity to sprint to the finish line, 1 out of 5 jumped at the chance. And given the circumstances of the pandemic, it's pretty extraordinary. So now think about the opportunity this creates for the remaining students, more personalized attention. And again, many of us know this can be a mutually reinforcing positive dynamic, allowing students to accelerate, provides more opportunities for personalized support for students that need it most. Further, our graduation rate was also promising. 85% of our students graduated in 4 years. The same group that came in with a 10% proficiency rate in ELA matched the graduation rate across the state. They exceeded the graduation rate in our district and in the city. And this also speaks to the promise of personalized competency-based learning to accelerate learning for students, creating that kind of leapfrog effect coined by the Brookings Institution. As a testament to that effect, the last thing I'll share is that this is Bentu Saho, one of our proud students. She's a Posse Scholar who received a full scholarship to Lafayette College in Pennsylvania. Only 4% of applicants receive a Posse Scholarship nationwide. And this, for us, is the culmination of our work at SBC. Thanks for allowing me to share and celebrate some of our work. This is my contact info. I'll pass it back over to you, Chris.
Awesome, John. Thanks for sharing your story. One question in here from Matt. In terms of what LMS do you use? And put some color to it. How did you also turn that around in a day? It's just an amazing story.
So we use Schoology, which is a pretty user-friendly LMS. So we had experimented with some, really thoughtful, personalized, LMS systems previously, but we found that the barrier, the learning curve for teachers was just too steep, and Schoology, was an easy one for us to use. And, turning it around in a day was really the result of, fortuitous circumstances, but also, the fact that we had been using the LMS for so long. All we were doing was figuring out how to use sort of a video conferencing tool on top of that. So, again, we were fortunate that we had some of those structures in place already.
Awesome. And one more question here from Jerry. What SEL curriculum do you use, or how do you approach your social emotional learning?
That's a great question. We have built, we built our own competency framework. We were fortunate to have a year to design our school model, and we spent a lot of time on that competency framework, which has our SEL competencies embedded in it. Those are resources we're happy to share. We kind of consider them open source. And we have our staff sort of build out the curriculum aligned to those competencies. So we have a scope and sequence for what we call CORE, which is our advisory curriculum. And again, all of our resources, we're happy to share. We're kind of an open book on that front.
Thanks, John. Thanks for sharing your story, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll pass the mic to Kristen Watkins, coming to us from Dallas ISD. Kristen, you take it away.
All right, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Hello from Dallas ISD in the state of Texas. Dallas ISD is a large urban district with 230 schools serving nearly 150,000 students. Our personalized learning journey began back in the fall of 2013 with 5 schools working to personalize. And today we have 20 schools either beginning or working towards personalization on their campus. What's driving our collective work this year is this driving question. How might we design this year to have extraordinary impact on our community? Before I share how we plan to answer this question collectively, it's important to reflect back on the moments that helped us strengthen trust within our district. A year ago last week, a horrific tornado demolished 3 of our schools. What you see in this picture are 3 elementaries who held school in a field house for nearly a week. This picture still gives me goosebumps as I vividly remember walking around and seeing firsthand the resilience our students and teachers showed when they were continuing to teach and learn despite the circumstance. What's not pictured is the district-wide support from every division, department, and campus to ensure our families and staff were safe and that those impacted had an opportunity to rebuild their community. Fast forward to 2020, February 20th is a really important day for us in Dallas. This is actually the first day back in 2014 that an email went out asking educators to raise their hand to join in the personalized learning work. It was actually also the email that pulled me out of the classroom. Every year now we celebrate on this day by visiting every single campus and delivering notes and letters to our teachers and school leaders. This is also the day that we celebrate and surprise our newest schools who are joining our family. 3 days before we left for spring break this year, we held our annual Innovation Showcase. This event helps us celebrate and showcase all of the hard work across our cohort and fellowships. Think of this night as like an adult science fair where teachers and school leaders are sharing their design projects and the work that they're doing in their space with a large audience filled with community members, teachers, and other leaders in our community. You'll see in this picture that a few even bring their students to elevate their voice in the design process. Now, here is where our path might begin to resonate with yours. In an effort to keep everyone safe in our community, instead of returning to campus after spring break, we transitioned to at-home learning. With the cross-departmental systems already in place from the efforts to respond to the tornado, we were able to quickly lean back on those working groups to respond to the pandemic. While this transition was and continues to be challenging for our community and staff, there are many bright spots in our district and our personalized learning classrooms that we've been able to learn from. From March through July, the PL team hosted close to 50 webinars with more than 9,000 collective participants. It was truly a wild, wild time. But by working closely with our teachers, we were able to leverage the trust between us to design webinars to meet real-time needs across the entire district. In every webinar, we were able to spotlight an elementary and a secondary teacher to share what they were doing in their classroom. What you see on your screen here is a screenshot of one of our second grade teachers giving a behind-the-scenes look at her Google Classroom and how she was leveraging that to differentiate. Well, these are the moments that had extraordinary impact on Dallas ISD. It was actually in these moments that we were able to strengthen trust in our teachers, our leaders, and families to navigate change and build hope for our next normal together. While this spring at times was rough and uncertain, we found hope and light in the bright spots in our PL schools. They quickly reestablished community rituals to make sure that students felt connected and seen with their peers and teachers during a very isolating time. Students were able to find confidence in the self-directed habits they'd been building over the years to continue learning in a synchronous or an asynchronous setting. And our teachers and leaders continued to fail forward to find solutions to meet the needs of every student and staff. As we continue to move forward and consider all the ways we can make this unforgettable year filled with memorable moments, I have to take a second to share what we've been leaning on as a team for inspiration. If you have not read, hopefully you guys can see this, The Power of Moments, this is a book I strongly recommend. In this book, Chip and Dan Heath define peak moments are ones that do at least one of the following: elevation, moments that lift us above the ordinary; insight, moments that rewire our understanding of the world; pride, moments of achievement and recognition; and connection, moments that deepen our ties to others. Whether we realized it or not, this past year, we were experiencing peak moments. While the tornado did not elevate us above the ordinary, it taught us that we are truly stronger and better together. And it also taught us that our community deeply cares about our schools. PL Day continues to be an opportunity for us to strengthen and deepen our ties across our cohort. And the Innovation Showcase always is a night full of pride and excitement. And this pandemic has continued to provide moments that have truly rewired our understanding of the world and what school might be in the future. I think simply put, moments matter regardless of size. One of the headlines from the book that I have been leaning on and using as my North Star this year has been, when we understand what powerful moments are made of, we can be intentional about creating them. This year, we are on the pursuit to truly think in moments and to design opportunities to make this year have impact. Right now, our teams are working on ramping up or refining their opportunities for authentic learning for our students. We've recently set a goal to host a student showcase in the spring to share how they are making a difference in our community. In closing, I would like to invite all of you to think about the most memorable day in school that you've had. No need to flood the chat with all of those details, but I'd love it if everyone would take a second to reflect on that day and then drop in the chat what feeling comes to mind. And then if you haven't updated your chat, make sure that it is to all panelists and attendees. See love and pride, joy, pride again, connection. These are great. To close, I would like to leave you with this question and an opportunity to reflect on and ask yourself, how might you create that moment for others?
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kristen, and I appreciate ending on that note. To pull one question up and just to turn it back to you, when you go to try and design that moment, I know for principals, parents, teachers, everyone's always trying to create that. How do you approach that? How do you actually make that come to life?
We in Dallas really love themes. And so we have leaned on themes to help us think about experiences and then how to make them really inclusive and immersive in the process. And I think another piece that we do is we like to start our work by building empathy with whoever it is that we're designing for, to ensure that it's not a solution that we're driving with, but more of we're really getting to the root of what we're trying to solve.
Beautiful. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks,
and we'll pass it on to Steve Kosakowski with the New Hampshire Virtual Learning Academy Charter School. Steve? Steve, we can't hear you. Maybe your camera's blocked?
One of the things it's saying, can't start sharing. So let me try again.
Cool. Try one more time.
Lauren, can you make sure Steve's co-hosted on this? Great.
Okay, it just went.
There we go, Steve.
Thank you.
For business.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank the Aurora Institute for allowing me to chat a little bit about VLAX. We're based in Exeter, New Hampshire, which is about 10 miles from the seacoast. And last year we served about 12,500 students. As you would expect, most of our students are from New Hampshire. They attend our school free of charge. We also worked with students in, I think, about 15 other states, and they come to us on a tuition basis. When you break down our demographics, 72% of the students that we work with are from traditional public schools, 15% are homeschoolers, and then we have a significant population from charters, from private schools, as well as some students who've dropped out of school completely and are trying to find a way back. We also host or home to 6 full-time students who are working their way toward a VLAX diploma. So the first things I want to show you is a little bit about our enrollment process. We're an open enrollment school, so we process enrollments every day of the year, Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day, it doesn't matter. We have students coming to us and starting and working at their own pace. Since we have so many public school students, you might guess that our enrollment surges correspond with things that are happening in traditional schools. That, of course, is correct. So if you look here, this is about February when the semesters change. This is June, and as we get to mid-June, we get a lot of kids who are thinking about next year or looking at enrichment, or maybe taking a course over or working on competency recovery. And then, of course, we have the opening of school, and these 2 dots here represent the first 2 weeks in September. So these are the years 2017 to 2019, so pre-COVID. But I'd like to show you what happened over the last year. So our enrollment rate last year was about, as we went into the spring and COVID appeared on our doorstep, about 5% above last year. And in fact, we even saw our enrollment dip in June because most schools in New Hampshire closed in June. So the counseling staffs and so forth weren't there to talk with kids to get them looking at the next year. So this actually is the same graph that you saw before. Notice all the bumps here, the bumps are missing. And one of the reasons is, if you take a look at this scale, it's at 7,000. Here it was at 1,600. Because what happened to us in August was pretty extraordinary, and we hadn't anticipated enrollments of this size. You can see, and this would be late July, this would be early August, we were having some astronomical numbers, 7,000 enrollments in 1 week alone. And the reason that the dip subsided really was because we started waitlisting and closing courses, because we just didn't have the instructional capacity to continue to help all those students. I really believe that if we hadn't closed those courses, we would have continued to see some very, very high numbers. Also notice that even though we had about 2/3 to 3/4 of our courses closed, we still continued to be slightly above last year's enrollment rate. And so that further illustrates that I think there's a great deal of need there. So what have we done with that enrollment surge? First thing we did is we rely on something we come back to again and again, and that's that relationships mattered. So the first thing we knew we had to do was take care of our employees. And so we were asking them things like, you know, do you need time off? Do you need additional support? How are you taking care of your kids? Just wanted them to know that we were there for them, and that we certainly knew that their schedules would be different, that their focus would have to be different because family comes first. We also reached out to former employees and said, do you have any interest in coming back to work for us to help us with this enrollment surge? And we had a number who had the time and availability who did. We also put our hiring and training efforts into hyperdrive. And over the course of 8 weeks, we not only hired 100 new instructors and trained them, which takes many, many weeks, but we also opened a whole new wing of our school. Before we were a 6 through 12 school, we're now a K through 12 school. So that was really based on a call from our state commissioner saying, we really need your help. And so we stepped up to do that. And so it's been quite a fall. But I think without, you know, thinking about relationships, thinking about how we can help our employees, how do we help our families who are in a constant state of stress, that it could have been a tough go, but our employees really stepped up and made sure that kids and families feel really supported as they went through this period of time. But coming out of, or as we've worked our way through the pandemic, really starting to think about what are we going to be doing for the rest of the pandemic and after. And I almost think there's this imaginary elastic band that's being stretched by all of the stress and all of the experiences we're going through. And I think that elastic is going to be stretched and then pull us back to what we were doing pre-COVID, because everybody really would like a return to normalcy. And what I often wonder is that the direction we're going to go, or through leadership in various ways, can we slightly alter the trajectory of that pull so that not only do we establish a new normal, but it brings us out maybe ahead of where we would be if the pandemic never occurred. And certainly the pandemic is a horrific thing that we're going through, but if there could be some silver lining to it, that would be wonderful. And so given that we're a competency-based school and given the opportunities that we provide, we're really thinking about what the future holds. So you can see here some of the things that we offer to our students. And and the whole idea is that students are in charge of decisions. So if we have a student come to us and say, you know, I would really like to work with a marketing agency and meet all my competencies in English this year, we'll make that happen. We might have another student who comes to us and says, I'm working for a lawn irrigation company. We're doing a lot with water and water testing and so forth. Is it possible that there's a competency or two that I might be able to master in science? And that, in fact, is an example of one of the projects that we worked on. So there have been lots of opportunities for kids to do things because we're competency-based and because we offer all these opportunities. And so one of the things that we believe we're going, or I believe that we're going to do as we come out of this, is we're really going to look at building our offerings into an ecosystem for schools, for families, for parents, so that if a school is trying to make changes, but there's some aspect that they really can't handle at this moment, that they could come to us for help. For example, maybe they have a middle schooler who wants to go with their parents on a trip to all the national parks, and they want to do it in the fall. Is there a way that the student could meet history requirements or master history competencies while they're on this trip? Could they do a lot of journal writing and meet English requirements? And the answer is yes, we could help with that. Maybe another school says we could really use professional development and how to implement competency-based learning. We would help with that. We would also look at, we're also going to be expanding to a point where we can say we can help learners from kindergarten through careers and beyond. So we also know there are a lot of adults who could use help in either career development or maybe just learning a language. And so we're going to really use this as a springboard to helping to create an ecosystem that other schools, families, students can use as we move forward. So that's about all I have as far as time goes. So I thank you for the opportunity to talk about what we're doing, and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve, so much for sharing your story and just the amazing numbers of growth and how you've evolved with it. I will move us on to our next speaker, but do feel free to ask questions in the chat and Steve can reply from there. Thank you again, Steve. And I'll pass it over to Corey Steiner at Northern Cass to share about his journey with community.
All right, can you hear me out there, Chris?
Yep, sound good.
Okay.
I'd like to go into presentation mode.
Okay, give me 1 second. It was all up and running and now it is not. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. How's that look?
Perfect.
All right, very good. All right, thank you, Kristen. All right, welcome everyone. I'd say good morning to some and good afternoon to the others. And it is great to be here and be able to present to all of you. Let me set the stage to who and what we are. My name is Corey Steiner. I'm the superintendent of the Northern Cass School District. We are a school district of 660 learners, pre-K through 12 in North Dakota. And in North Dakota, that's actually a middle to upper size school district. We are in the midst of our third year of a transition to full competency-based learning. And it's important to understand our beliefs because that's really what set the stage for everything we did during our closure in the spring. We are a believer that the system we're operating in actually is working quite well because it was built to sort and select learners. Take those that do well and let them do better. Take those that struggle and leave them behind. And those in the middle can kind of just hang out there for the better part of 12 to 13 years. It's allowed us to create an outcome of what I think is the dirtiest F word in the English language, and that is the word fine. And I will tell us people, it's important to understand that if we continue to tinker, there is no way we will ever get to transformation. And it is only through reimagining that we can reinvent a radical new system. So our system isn't flawed. The fact is, we need a new system. It's important for you to understand, this is our location. So when you look around there, especially for those that are in big metro areas, you'll see on the east, west, south, and north, cornfields. We are literally located there. We serve 6 communities, small little towns, 200 people at the most without a business in there. And we had to figure out, how do we support our community when we really don't have a community around us? We also serve 30% of enrolled learners who are open enrolled to our district. So we had some unique circumstances and conditions we had to deal with. I want you to understand that this is why I think we were able to be successful during COVID. And that is because our North Star, our why, we never hesitated or deviated from going after it, even when things were uncertain and ambiguous. We believe every learner can change the world, therefore we'll provide a world-class education. We start every single staff meeting sharing out how learners have changed the world in the last month. Every single one, and we did the same during COVID. After that first 10 minutes of that staff meeting, we go to our commitments, and these are the behaviors our adults need to engage in for us to be successful and for us to meet our why. And then we share with one another in a pair share, and then report out, how have we met our commitments? Our success during closure, our success now is due directly to the fact that we're crystal clear on our why, and we're crystal clear on the behaviors that lead us to achieve our why. So it was March 15th, Governor Burgum and Superintendent of Public Instruction Kirsten Baszler, who are 2 of the easily the most education reform minds in the whole country, who don't let politics drive what we decide for our learners, came out and they said, you'll have 2 things. You need to be prepared to reopen in a week, deep clean the building, or 2, you need to be prepared to go to distance learning. I'm proud to say when we started meeting, we were prepared for distance learning in 3 days. Most in our state took a couple weeks to get ready. We used our learning management system Empower to get ourselves prepared. And it was a direct result of our mindset and our commitment to competency-based education. See, we had a system that was agile, flexible, and adaptable. And we were able to shift very quickly. When we started to have conversations, we came to the conclusion that there were these 3 big forks in the road. And here's what they were, and I'll throw them all up there. First was content or relationships. We didn't spend a lot of time talking. It probably lasted about 2 minutes because we are a relationship-driven organization. Any learner-centered organization hangs their hat on that. And I'll talk a little more about that. Wellness for everyone. We often forgot that we need to take care of our educators, our parents, along with our learners. So we made a purposeful effort to make sure we addressed all those in our plan. And then the other one was distance. We have a 400-mile square mile district that was in March, which was still winter for us. And how do we navigate and handle distance and not allow it to be a barrier of inaction? So here's what we did with content, and I'm proud of this. We reinforced priority standards, no new content. That was a decision we made. Content could be introduced the next year. We made sure seniors got what they needed to meet their graduation requirements. We were already standards-based grading pre-K through 12, so we never had conversations about what grades were. And for those that didn't get something done, we either did it in the summer or they came back this year. We don't cut grades off until a kid walks across the stage for graduation. They can always go back and fix a grade at any point. And so grades were never a discussion, nor was attendance. Here was our attendance policy. If you don't communicate with us why you're not in a session, we called. I called, principals called, counselor called, everybody called to make sure they were okay. In these instances, what we found out, a lot of our kids were home babysitting and they were the caretakers at home. And so we realized really quickly, we can't offer sessions only during the day. Our educators, without a second thought, said, we're going to offer evening sessions for our kids. And so they worked around what the contract was. And we basically said, throw the contract out, do what you can to love kids and do what you can to help kids. So for the relationship side, and I'll throw this all on there, we made sure that we took care of relationships. So what were some of the things we did? Well, we surveyed learners every single 2 weeks, and we used that to actually inform what we did. We held a parade. Our parade was 70 miles long, 4 hours in length, filled with tears because we were all weeping because we were seeing kids and signs and celebrations. We did a drive-in movie. $10,000 we raised in our community because we had people who just wanted to be on our campus. Our barbecue for our seniors. We came out, we took their orders and we went around and we delivered. Our administration delivered meals to our seniors. We had a daily memo. We begged our parents and they helped us. They gave us positive moments, things teachers did well, and we put it in a daily memo we sent out to our entire district to celebrate who we were and what we did. For wellness, I'll share a couple, and I know we're getting close to time. We ran restorative practice circles for staff, learners, and parents. We had parent support groups led by our school psychologist. We had Zoom meetings where people just got to come and share the struggles they were going through. We simply listened and we were vulnerable. And in our staff meetings, the thing I'm most proud of, they were about an hour to hour and a half long, and that was because we spent the first half hour to 45 minutes on gratitude and then shout outs. And honestly, I bet I told them I loved them 100 times in those meetings, and we shared that with one another. We cried a lot because we missed one another, and we were very vulnerable. We found out that was the most important skill we had. All right, and then our last thing, we never let distance be a barrier. We served over 400 meals. Again, think of that, 600 learners. We were serving 400 meals. We served to high needs adults. We drove out every day and delivered to 8 spots. We delivered to houses if people needed it delivered. And every Monday, the admin team went out with bus drivers and we delivered all of our supplies so we could see our families, talk to them, and work with them. So what does it summarize? And I know it was quick. We survived. Now we were thriving. We survived. We moved to thrive. We didn't let the pandemic control us. We controlled that. That's a choice I hope all of you choose to make going forward. So that's it.
Whew. Corey, I appreciate
Sorry,
the energy and the hustle, sir. That was impressive. And I think 70 miles in 4 hours, clearly just activating the community. I do want to field one question here from Jason of just, how do you create this culture of flexibility and moving and the buy-in with it? How do you create that energy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And here's how we've created it. We've given the power to our teachers to be the leaders in our district. They run our PD. They sit on all of our groups and help lead that. You know, we don't just let them sit there. They make decisions and they get to implement what they choose to implement. We give a lot of autonomy in our district. And because of that, it's the first time I've seen us truly create a teacher-led organization.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Corey.
Thank you.
And we'll pass it off to our final presenter today, Brenda Diaz, coming from Nashville Big Picture. Brenda, mic's all yours.
Okay. Can everyone see the slide?
Looks good.
All right. Well, good afternoon and good morning to some. Thanks so much for this opportunity as I share the story and of our journey at Nashville Big Picture High School. First of all, I have the unique pleasure of a lifetime to serve as principal of Big Picture High School in Nashville. And our school is designed as a big picture learning school. We are Metro Nashville Public Schools, and we are the first school in the South to be a BPL school, which was founded in 2007. So we are not anything like anyone would expect when you walk into a school in Metro Nashville. We are designed to prioritize people, passions, and purpose. As a part of the big picture design, we focus on relationship, relevance, and rigor. The heart of our school is our people. Those people include our students who are in the center of the learning, our advisors, which are teachers, our parents, our community, and our administrators. Everything we do is about people and those relationships. Passions, we are in tune with the interest of our students through our internship program and through projects. And we never forget our why. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the purpose that we have at Big Picture, and that is to make sure that students are always at the center of the learning. So, just like many schools and everyone in this country and across the world, we're in a pandemic. But our story began actually on March 6th when a devastating tornado hit Nashville. And we were out of school from March 6th until March 9th. When we returned, we thought we were getting back to normal after dealing with a tornado. But to our surprise, on March 12th, school was closed. It was closed because COVID-19 had landed in our community and in our world, and we could no longer come to our school every day and see our beautiful kids and see our community. So what did that mean? We were then tasked with the idea of knowing that the best way that we could move forward as a school community is to not compromise on who we are. We are a school that believe in advisories. It is the heart of our school. It is where we develop the relationships of our kids with that one advisor who goes with that student for about 2 to 4 years until they graduate. Most advisories have no more than 15 students. You get to know the students and the parents and their families. Internships were still very important to our families. Authentic assessments through exhibitions and project-based learning. And of course, we believe in communication, collaboration, and connections. One of the things that we said to our families and our students from the get-go was that school might look different, but MBPHS was not going to change. We are going to love you, and we're going to make sure that we are true to the big picture design known as the 10 distinguishers. When we realized in August that we were going to be 100% virtual, we began to do the work that we've always done as a school community. We garnered the information and voices of our students through monthly town hall meetings. We hold quarterly and monthly student voice sessions because we want our students' voices and their ideas to be heard. In fact, they're the ones who most likely can give us the best ideas on how to meet their needs. But there was a need to also care about each other. So self-care is at the heart of what we do as well. And as leaders, we model vulnerability and transparency. All of us have experienced loss. So it's important as a school leader and those of us in leadership to share our losses and our concerns and our worries, and even be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, especially when you're dealing with all of the crises that we're dealing with at this stage. But we do not compromise our culture of kindness. That is who we are as a school. And we view everything through the lens of equity. And we celebrate the resilience of our families and our students and the team. But we're still evolving. We're trying to figure out now that we're getting ready to go back in January in person, and some of our students have opted to stay virtual while others are staying in person. How are we going to do that? We're still trying to figure that out. We're also figuring out how to expand the geographical limits of our internship program in a virtual space through quality mentorships and connecting with other BP schools so that we can expand the social collateral of our students. We're also learning how to take care of each other virtually and always making sure that our vision is at the forefront of everything that we do. And we're also looking at data analysis systems. What is effective in the virtual space? What are the interactions that students are having, and what are the outcomes? How are they truly still sticking true to their passions in this space? But at the end of the day, our purpose and who we are as a school community is simple. We put one student at a time. We want to make sure that students are valued, seen, heard, and loved. Our mantra is simple at Nashville Big Picture High School. We are noble, brilliant, passionate, honorable, and self-directed students, advisors, administrators. I think our alumni said it best when we had a few of our alumni to join us on a virtual call a few weeks ago during our College Awareness Week. Dexter, Tremisha, and Emma clearly shared with us how their joint journey at Big Picture High School allowed them to pursue their interests, which now are what they're doing in college. Dexter is pursuing architecture, Tremisha is pursuing healthcare, and Emma, with her love of theater and nature, has figured out a way to continue to pursue that as graduates of Big Picture High School. What this crisis has shown us is what crisis shows a lot of us about who we are as people. In a crisis, your true character is revealed. And what this has revealed to us at Big Picture High School is that even though we are in heavy winds and change is coming from all sides, we have decided to use this time and this space and this moment to harness the energy of this crisis and change to build windmills and to be unapologetically personalizing learning for our students by putting them in the center with every decision that we do. Thank you so much for your time, but I want to give a huge shout out to my school family, Nashville Big Picture High School, to our advisors, to the administrators, to our support team, to our families, because without you, we could not do the work that we do every day, and that is to just simply make sure students know that we love them. Thank you.
Beautiful, Brenda. Thank you for closing it out with that message and the approach towards empathy and love and helping students be seen. I want to bring in a question here from Jason, who mentions with kindness and equity really being your core values. Was there something else you had to sacrifice to put those first?
Wow. I don't think of it as a sacrifice, because with kindness and equity as our core value, it leads us to do the work that we're really designed to do. So it's not a sacrifice. The only thing you sacrifice is that sometimes the people who don't believe in those things, they find a way to not be in your circle. So that may be the only sacrifice in it, that you surround your people who definitely believe in those core values when you live by that.
Gotcha. Sounds good. And one more from Mary. What's the big picture way to set advisory and learning goals to build those capacities? How exactly do you do the goals and advisory with it?
Well, I guess the core way that we do that, first of all, is getting to know the students, but we do that through individualized learning plans. And that is the way that our advisors conduct what we call one-on-ones. And they do that daily, or they have scheduled meeting times with students at least once a week, where they sit down and they talk about, what are your interests? What's going on with your families? How can I help you move you even further along this road of finding your purpose? So having those one-on-one conversations and using the personalized learning plan is a document that we use to really kind of keep on top of what students are doing, what they know and what they don't know, and what we can do to move them forward.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Brenda, for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
And everyone, that'll wrap our Bright Spots keynote here. Huge thanks to all of our presenters here to step up and also be in a place of vulnerability and just sharing what they have learned in this time of crisis and evolving through it. So please join me in virtually clapping, thanking Renee, John, Kristen, Steve, Corey, and Brenda for sharing their stories of their work in their communities today. From here, we're moving to a quick little break. Please join any thoughts in the 1-minute poll. We are always trying to get better, so your feedback and advice is always welcome. And if you go to, I believe, the next slide in terms of what's next. Susan, you can close it out.
Sure. Just wanted to thank everyone again for that amazing session, and give you a little bit of a break for 15 minutes at 1:30. We're going to go deeper on a lot of these topics that came out. The breakout sessions, as you'll see, just building on Javier's topic, that number 9, research on coaching, leadership, and inter-school professional development. It goes deeper into that work. You're going to hear more about scheduling, advancing equitable community engagement in virtual spaces. Go ahead, take a look at your program book for the latest links. These are online. And just thank you, everybody, for joining, for the comments, the participation. And we'll welcome you to join the breakout rooms. And then just keep in mind, for tomorrow morning, Wednesday at 11 a.m., we'll come back and Chris will be moderating our live student panel. So enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your breakouts, and we'll see you back soon. Thanks.